Good morning, everyone. Wanted to welcome you to our BEAD office hours for the challenge process. I am Laura Sasaki, and I'm a project and program supervisor here at the California Public Utilities Commission, working in the BEAD branch. And let's just move on to the agenda. I know that we have a lot of new faces here today. So we'll just kind of go over what we'll be doing today, a little bit of housekeeping and how we're going to organize and do the questions, and then we will get into the Q&A and chat with you guys. So first we'll do some housekeeping items, and then we will be going into your questions. And then we'll wrap up with kind of next steps and things that you guys could do to get ready to participate in the challenge process. So the housekeeping items. So the way that we're going to format this, and again, we have some familiar faces and we have some new faces, so welcome, is we will ask you to put your questions in the chat. And also you'll want to raise your hand, because that gives us an idea of the order that people have questions. So if you can keep yourself on mute until we call on you, I will call on you. You can unmute yourself if you want to go on camera. Feel free to do that. We'll go through all of the one round of questions, so that everybody has a chance to ask and answer. And then if we have follow-up questions, please put that in the chat. Once we get through the first round, we will go back through, time permitting, and be able to answer those questions. Next slide, please. So how this works today, this is your opportunity to ask us questions about the challenge process and generally the BEAD program. There will be some questions that we just don't have the answers for right now. As most of you know, BEAD is constantly changing and developing, and we have a lot of dependencies, some of which are outside of our control, but we will do our best to answer the questions today. As a reminder, for those of you who are new to this, CPUC, while we are administering the program, the rules of the program are outlined by NTIA, so that is the federal program administrator. And then the question and answer for this meeting will be posted in our FAQs on our website. And we're also recording this session. So once we wrap up this session, we'll be able to get all of our Q&A sessions posted online so that you guys can view any of the previous ones as well. Okay, next slide. Or actually, sorry, that's the follow-up. that's the last one. So let's go ahead and take the slides down, and we'll start going through your questions. So please raise your hand if you have a question. Okay, Robert, if you want to go ahead and take yourself off of mute.
Good morning, everyone. So I really just want to mention like a technical problem that I went through with Zoom, because when I sign up for those meetings, you can download the calendar invite, and when I open it automatically with Microsoft Outlook, for some reason, the meeting time is 10 a.m., but on the calendar it show 1 p.m. And I missed a couple of those invites until today. I've been able to observe this issue and modify the time manually on Outlook to be able to join the meeting at 10 a.m.
Thank you for flagging that. We'll make sure to double check that that it doesn't inadvertently save it as an Eastern time versus a Pacific time. So thank you for that. We'll keep an eye on it. Next question. Don't be shy. So please raise your hand if you have a question that you've put in chat. Hi, Davis.
Hi. I just stuck it in there in a chat. just wanted to know if you have any updates on timeline, like when we can reasonably expect, like, and if we should stop everything this
Understood.
week in anticipation of when the portal is going to be opened up. Because I think for most of us, like timing is really important, especially as the July 4th weekend is going to be coming up, and we know people are going to be out of town, and so like just some indication as to when this is going to start happening would be really helpful in terms of scheduling and preparing.
I can sort of get to the sum. So I can't tell you when today, but what I will say is if you can check back first part of next week on the challenge page on our portal. We're hoping to have something up there for everyone at that point. So we'll put the link in the chat. It's not the main BEAD page. We have one that is just for challenge process. So just encourage you to be checking that first part of next week.
Thanks, Laura. So that means nothing's going to be happening today or tomorrow?
Nothing is happening today or tomorrow, correct?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so please raise your hand if you have a question. We also like to ask if you do put that in the chat, just so that we're able to accurately capture that for the frequently asked questions and be able to get that posted. All right, well, you guys are thinking about that. Oh, Carrie, go ahead.
Oh, hi. Thank you so much for these office hours. When I was reading through the initial proposal, volume 1, under the area and MDU challenges, I'm trying to understand exactly what it means when it says the CPUC will administer these challenges. As a nonprofit or county agency, are they still able to go in and administer the area MDU challenges?
So I think the distinction there, and Amy or Phil, just correct me if I'm going too far afield, but the distinction there is that the CPUC is administering the challenge process. So we're overseeing this. We're going to be overseeing this process that is separate from permissible challengers, CBOs, nonprofits being able to submit challenges. So you will still be submitting the challenges. We at the CPUC will be taking a look at those, making sure that they meet the minimum level of evidence, and then make a determination whether they're valid and should go into the rebuttal phase.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Robert, we will have that on the events page following this meeting. It'll probably be a couple days before we get them, because we're going to post all 3 that we've had so far at the same time. So if we can put that link in the chat, you guys will be able to access it from there. Steve, do you want to come off mute and ask your question?
Yeah, thank you. Do we need to wait for the challenge process to begin before we can actually access the data? Or, and the reason I'm asking is because I registered for access on the 20th and haven't heard anything back yet.
So the requests are, or the registration requests are in process right now, and we should be releasing the batches of those end of this week and first part of next week. That will get you into the portal. You'll be able to kind of look around and get familiar with it. And then we will be announcing subsequently when all of the information and data will be published that will be used for the challenge process. So like I said, if you can check back first part of next week on that challenge page, we will have some more information on that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Carrie, can you come off mute and let me know if that is the toolkit to accept challenges from individuals that you're looking for?
Well, I'm not exactly sure which toolkit. I know the CPUC announced that it would provide a toolkit to help all of us. I think it was going to address multiple things, right? How to best use this process efficiently.
Okay,
my
great.
understanding.
Yeah. Okay. So the toolkit will be posted tomorrow. We'll have a resources page that will be a new page. I don't have the URL because we still have to create the URL, but that will be posted tomorrow. The toolkit will be up there, and we will continue to add resources to that as we move through the challenge process, as we move through sub-grantee selection and everything. That will kind of be the one-stop shop for all of the resources. And if we have toolkits that are specific to certain areas, then those will be included there. And we are planning to send out a constant contact. So if you have not yet signed up for notifications, please do that. And we can put the link in chat to where you can sign up for that, because if you sign up, then when we send out that constant contact email, you will get all of the updates. You'll get the link to the resources page and everything like that. Davis, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Sure. You had just said to the second to last questioner about, you mentioned something about the minimal evidence, and I'm sorry I didn't catch that, but what will be the guidelines by which you're going to be determining that?
So from just a baseline perspective, we will be using what is in the BEAD policy notice. If we have, and we'll put a link to that in chat. And if you guys don't, if my team doesn't have it, I think I have it bookmarked somewhere. But if we have anything additional, we will be publishing that. We'll make that available so you guys don't have to hunt things down all of the time. So as part of the resources that we provide, we will post just a reference on what that minimum level of evidence is.
And so that's what the CPUC is going to. So the PUC is going to be developing those guidelines, right?
So it's kind of twofold. Thank you, Franny. Franny just put in chat a link to the BEAD process policy notice. And if you guys haven't seen that yet, which you may not have, that outlines, and it's also in our IPv1, but it outlines based on the type of challenge, what the evidentiary standards that NTIA has. So we will be following those. If we have any additional clarifications, we will add to that, and then we'll be kind of summarizing. So we're not just posting the whole policy notice, but we're just posting something on the minimum level of evidence on our website in the resources section. Did that answer your question, Davis?
Yeah, sort of.
There's going to be some reading involved.
Sure, yeah, and so I guess like what I wanted to get more clarity on was like what some of the more squishy things are, you know, that CPUC is going to be what guidelines CPC is going to be developing and how you're going to be basing those standards for
So-
determining those minimal evidence standards.
I think what we want to do is wait until we have those published, and then be able to have that feedback once people have had a chance to take a look at it.
So there will be a period for feedback, and if like so when CPC.
Oh, sorry. When we have, because we'll be continuing to have some office hours, and so if there's additional questions on clarification or clarity, you'll be able to do that. In the interim, you can always submit questions for us to post on FAQs.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. And thank you for that link, Amy. Just a note to folks that on the BEAD webpage, that main page that we posted in chat just now, if you are specifically looking for the approved volume 1, I want to just double check here. So it is on that list, it is Appendix B. So the way we do things here at the CPUC with our proceedings and our decisions, there are a number of documents that get posted with that. So as you're looking at the link that we've posted there, the approved volume 1 is under the Appendix B line.
Laura, can I add a detail, specifically pages starting at page 13 of that initial proposal volume 1, and I can go back and find the pages for the policy notice that explains the types of evidence for each type of challenge.
Thank you. And I will also say, if you guys want examples, if you take a look at some of the previous slide decks that are posted on that events page, we do talk about that pretty extensively in those slides and in those recordings. And so that's also another resource for you. And I would just say, keep in mind that because slides are what they are, we weren't able to put everything that was in the policy notice. Just because of real estate, but it does cover a lot of that. I did want to note for those of you who have already submitted registration requests, also if we could put the link to registering in the portal, that would be great in the chat. If we do have any questions about your registration, or if we have duplicates, so we had 2 people sign up from one organization, we will be reaching out to you to establish who that primary contact in person should be. Because once you have registered your organization, you can then add people to it, but we do need one main point of contact and representative from your organization. Thanks, Amy. So Amy just put in the chat where you can find the NTIA's evidentiary standards in that policy notice.
And I should have said examples of acceptable types of evidence. So I want to make that clear.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sam, do you want to bring up, oh, sorry, Steve, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm a little overwhelmed with all the information that there is out there, but I just wanted to find out for sure, is there a specified amount of time that the challenge process is going to be open for?
So this gets back to the word squishy. So the challenge process cannot last any longer than 120 days. In between all of that, there are different phases, and I can't speak to ours right now, other than if you look in IP Volume 1, it does lay out an interval process. So that gives you an idea of how long it will last and the different phases will last. I can't give you an idea of what the dates are for those, but Amy, could you do me a solid and find out in there what page the intervals are on? Thank you. So Steve, we'll post in the chat in that IP Volume 1, the approved version. We have the intervals and the time frames, I guess, for each part included in there. And it's also in it's also in the proposed decision, but it's much easier to look at it and in the approved IPv1.
Okay, thanks for helping limit my reading.
You're welcome. Trust me, every day I open up 3 documents from NTIA that are very long that have all of that, and we want to save you from having to read through all of those. So, Carrie, we will be having another webinar. We have not nailed down the date yet, but it will be before the end of this month. We'll be having another webinar where we walk through what the pieces of the portal and what the portal will look like, both for permissible challengers as well as what it looks like when individuals submit challenges for permissible challengers to submit on their behalf. So we will have some additional information on that. We will also be very shortly posting the user guide for the portal. And once your registration is approved, and I do not want to make the assumption, but if you have a registration that's pending right now, once that's approved, you'll actually be in the portal and be able to kind of poke around in there and see what it looks like. But we will be having another webinar. We also have a recording. Trying to remember the date that we did it, but we have we did do a walkthrough of it, and that I believe was that the comparison one, team? Do you remember? Oh, I'll figure out which recording it is so that you can kind of look at that recording as well, because we did walk through that. We've had a number of webinars, so they get mixed up. Did that answer your question, though, in terms of we will be having more information? The user guide will have kind of walking you through that process, and then we'll actually have a series of recordings that also get posted specifically in the resources that help you navigate the screens and the portal.
May I ask a follow-up question? So just trying to sort out the process in my head. But so did I hear you say individuals will be uploading evidence directly into the CPUC portal? I thought we were doing that all on their behalf.
Correct.
Okay.
So no, what I was referring to was we did a webinar that kind of covered both pieces of it. We will be building on that for another webinar because it is helpful to see what it looks like as you walk through it, but it also is very helpful to see what will come up when individuals submit theirs and what you will see, and then how you go about gathering that and submitting it. So we'll kind of walk through all of those pieces of it.
So individuals are just the individual challengers, the entity that we are acting on behalf to submit challenges. That's what you're saying by individuals. I guess I'm confused.
So permissible challengers are local governments, tribal governments, nonprofits, and broadband service providers. So if you are not one of those four, you fall into kind of the individual / members of the public challenger pool, which are NTIA does not allow me as a individual member of the public to go and submit a challenge. I would have to go to city of Sacramento or county of Sacramento and say, hey, here's all of my challenge stuff. Could you submit? We will have a mechanism for that. There will be a website that I would be able to go to and submit my challenge, and then it gets routed into the portal for permissible challengers to be able to see and submit on behalf of an individual. You're welcome. Robert, I didn't realize that saving chat was not enabled. If I can't enable it, I will send it out afterwards. Let's see. Yeah, I cannot enable that. So after this, I'm happy to send the text file of the chat out to everyone that attended. Oh, that's weird. All right. Well, thank you guys for letting me know that in chat that there are some issues with being able to save it and copy it. That will I will hunt through Zoom to find that. Zoom did a big update right before this, and some of the things have changed. And I think those features should have been enabled before, and I don't know if they are right now. So we'll make sure to double check those settings for future ones. Hey, Robert, go ahead.
Okay, I have a question. Like, I'm work here in Tule River Tribe. It's Indian reservation. In this case, do we need to worry about the challenge process? Because what we have on Tule River, like, I'm working in the telecom department, and that department is belongs to the tribe, and we do fiber to home to the people that living on the community on the reservation. So technically, like we don't have like any service provider, like the tribe with the telecom department, we are managing and providing the service to all community, all in-house. There is no like internet service provider or like AT&T or T-Mobile or whatever the name. Like everything is really managed on the reservation by the tribe. In this case, do we need to worry about the challenge to process?
I don't, I'm gonna ask Amy if she has an answer to that. And then Robert, if you could just summarize that question in chat, the best way that you can, because it's a really, really good question, and we want to be able to provide an answer and post online for anybody else that might have a similar question.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a fantastic question, Robert, and Phil may be able to fill in as well. I not knowing the data for the reservation off the top of our heads, I think that's the most critical piece that you might want to register for the challenge process and make sure that the data currently reflects what the tribe is providing. Um, and so to ensure that if it sounds like you're providing you're providing fiber to the home to everyone, or fiber within within the reservation. You want to make sure that's accurately reflected, because either there will be BEAD dollars available to either the tribe or a third party if there are locations that still need to be reached, or you risk the chance of those locations remaining open and another provider coming in. And so I think you really need to look and make sure that the data is correct. And there are cost quest licenses available to the tribe, a type D license, which we can get you information about, that would give you fuller information about what that data looks like. Otherwise, it will be available um, as the portal opens. You do not need the CostQuest license to participate in the challenge process, but it will give you more information about um, the broadband serviceable locations in the areas that you're looking at.
Okay, thank you so much. And I just want to mention something like the tribal council provide the internet service to the tribal member in the community on the reservation for free. So there's no monthly charge, no maintenance fee, nothing. Like
It's fantastic.
so I don't know like if this can change anything or make the tribe eligible for something because they already provide the service for free to the community. I don't know if you can comment on that. Thank you.
Just to clarify, were you asking if the pricing mechanism or lack thereof is a factor? Is that what the question was?
Yes, I mean like considering that the tribal council providing the service for free for all community members, if this factor can, consider in any way for eligibility or, you know, I don't know how to, but just to say like, okay, because usually, like for any service provider, they charge for the service. But in fact, the tribal council in Tule River provide the service for people here for free. There is no monthly charge, no maintenance fee, nothing at all. Does this add anything to the tribe eligibility for the fund or, like make the tribe eligible for some discount? Because technically, like we get the high speed internet from AT&T in one circuit, and then we distribute it on the tribe. But for AT&T, we pay like full price. So I don't know if, considering the fact that the tribal council pay AT&T but doesn't charge the people here can benefit the tribe in any way on the operation cost for the internet.
So I think what I would ask, because you have a lot of really good questions in there, that's a really big question. If you could, if you don't feel comfortable putting it in chat, you can send it to our bead@cpuc.ca.gov email. That's definitely one we need to talk about internally and get you a good answer. And we want to be thoughtful about that. So if you could send that to us so that we're able to talk that through, that would be really helpful. And then we can get back to you.
Definitely, I will send it out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I did put in the chat the link for, this is the Cost Quest license, the Tier E. That is for local governments. That would include tribal governments, nonprofits. And then if we have any service providers on the call that have not yet registered, I'm going to go ahead and put the Tier D license in there. That's the link to request a Tier D license. And as Amy said, it will really help be able to identify where the locations are on the map and not just kind of the general level of information. So it will be very helpful to you during the challenge process.
I did forget to mention that they are also free.
Yes. So Davis's question, he was reading from IP volume 1 in asking about the map that is referenced on there. No, that is not the map that we will be using. We will be publishing the map of eligible locations ahead of the challenge process opening, and that gives folks an opportunity to take a look at the map with the dots. And again, we can't add dots to the map, but it gives you an idea of what you're looking at based on the federal data. So it is not the CPUC's and not California's interactive broadband map, but we will be referencing the one that is provided by the FCC and NTIA. And so that will be posted ahead of time. The other thing that we will be posting will be the data sets, and that will be the unserved, underserved, and CAIs, so the Community Anchor Institution data set, and that will also include any pre-challenge modifications and also any of the deduplication. So those will all be published in advance to allow people to look at the data sets. We will also let you know what versions of the map and what version of, oh my goodness, help me out, Amy, the intervals of the updates. That is
certainly. So the address fabric, the underlying address fabric that provides all broadband serviceable locations is published twice a year. And so there are different versions of that. And so that is one. And then the other is the broadband data collection, which is the information about whether broadband serviceable location or an address that is on the map is served, unserved, or underserved.
Thank you. Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, hello. On the topic of the fabric map that was just getting discussed, it is my understanding that regardless of the license you have, whether it's a Tier D or a Tier E or whatever, that it's the same data product either way. It's just different paths to the same data set. Am I right?
You are correct.
Excellent. And I also noticed that just a couple weeks ago, an announcement came to me that an update on the fabric has been released. Though it's also my understanding that the fabric itself, which pertains to the physical locations of the verified BSLs, broadband serviceable locations, it changes very little between updates. Am I also correct about that?
I will actually defer to CTC on that. I think you guys have a little bit more familiarity with it on the level of change.
Okay. Is
Amy, are you okay if I answer that one for you?
I would love you to answer that one.
Thank you for your question. It's an extremely good question. There are changes. In some cases, they can be minor. In some cases, they are quite significant. So when the new version becomes available, I would recommend, if you have the ability, to compare and see what the differences are. But I would not say they are minor changes. They do vary.
well, okay. Also on the topic of this data, I see that the fabric itself is what I would consider the foundation. And then from the FCC website, you can download attributes that you can attach to the fabric locations. One of which is the telecom reported service levels of service that different telecoms are providing to the locations and the technology being used and the speeds. And it's my understanding that it's going to be that one there that's going to be most pertinent to the work of BEAD, as opposed to the other data set that I know is also available as an add-on, you might say, which is wireless. And it's my understanding, tell me if I'm right or wrong, that really this process is all about the wired to the location service and not the wireless. Am I right about that?
I'm not sure that that's an accurate statement, but I will defer. It looks like Phil, you came off mute, so go ahead.
Sure, Amy, I'll answer this one if that's okay with you. Good question again. You quite rightly pointed out there is what we call the fabric, which is essentially locations on the map that would be considered either serviceable or non-serviceable according to the FCC. But you also have the additional availability data, which provided for all providers, not just wired providers, but wireless providers. And also you will see on there satellite providers. The challenge process essentially encompasses all of the technologies.
Oh, okay. Well, then I had that wrong. All right. Thank you.
Hey, Steve, it looks like you've got a question.
Yeah, we had already applied and received the license when we applied for the FFA grant. Is this a different license? Is this the same license? Does this allow us to access that data once you guys update it, or do we have to apply again for a new license?
I believe that I don't believe that you need to reapply, but Amy and Phil, keep me honest here. Once you have a license, you have a license.
I want to add a little information to that. So these licenses do tend to have specific terms and conditions. And the NTIA has negotiated, again, as Laura said, that's the agency that's providing this funding from the federal government, has provided a number of specific licenses specifically for the BEAD program and future funding programs, federal funding programs. So I would recommend looking at those terms and conditions before using it for the BEAD program. And you may want to consider applying for a type E or a type D license as appropriate for use in this program.
So Amy, I just to confirm what you're saying is, even though Steve has an existing tier E license for FFA, there may be some difference.
if it's a tier E license, then he would not need to do that again. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Davis, I think you have the next question. Go ahead, please.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not quite sure if this was answered, and I'm sorry if I missed it, but it's in follow up to the previous conversation. So if we've just downloaded, like about 2 weeks ago, I guess, when it became available, if we just downloaded the CostQuest CBS files, have there been sufficient or are there updates to that CostQuest license that we're going to have to then re-download when the PUC portal opens up?
I don't know a specific answer to that. So Phil, do you have a response for that? I mean, we will have additional data sets that have pre-modification data that will be on our website, but I don't know the interplay between those. So Phil.
I would check on a regular basis. There are updates that are sent out, but I would check on a regular basis to see if there's been any changes. The license, as I say, there are license updates that I receive every week, but I have not delved in to see whether there's actual changes. So it would make sense, and I would encourage you just to make sure that you have the latest version.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tim, go ahead. And also, Tim, just a request, if you can put, I know you had a series of questions before, if you could please put those in chat so that we're able to capture them and include those on the FAQs, and the same for the question that you have now.
Okay, sure. I'll type those in.
Yep.
So next question also about the Fabric data. I was on the webinar where your portal was being demonstrated, and it is a very impressive tool. And it appeared that the Fabric points that we're talking about right now are within that portal tool. And so if that's true, so there's first question. And if it's true, then second question, why would individual challenging organizations need their own copies of the Fabric data if it's through the portal?
So I'll answer the first part, and then I think I'm going to punt over to Amy for the second part. So yes, the map is integrated within the portal. So once you are in the portal, you will have access to the map. And once we release those updates, you'll have that full data set that will be used for the challenge process. But Amy, I will give you the second part of that question.
Certainly. So as Laura noted, the data itself will get published in advance of the challenge process. And what that is a spreadsheet of location IDs. Those location IDs, at least for me, I'm not ArcGIS expert, without the associated underlying information that ties them to a specific address point, are difficult to decipher on their own. And so if an organization wants to do a more detailed analysis of the available, the currently listed unserved, underserved, or served locations, they might need both pieces of information and should consider getting a license to use the full amount of that data. But as Laura noted, it's available on the portal, and it is not necessary in order to participate in the challenge process.
Because once we open things up and publish those initial maps, you won't need to log into the portal. You'll be able to view the map. But as Amy said, your ability to really hone in on a specific location will be limited without the license.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Davis, go ahead and
No, I just want to make sure that I heard correctly. So the PUC will be using the CostQuest license, the CostQuest data for the fabric layer, but you're just not going to be providing it at the address level.
So we'll actually be using NTIA's fabric, or sorry, data, excuse me. And what we're seeing is without the license, it's just a functionality of it. So without the license, you won't be able to drill down on that. Amy and Phil, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Sure. Good question, Tim. And I'm sure there's a lot of confusion out there about what these licenses are all about. The license you would be applying for will give you the ability within your organization to view the data, and not you basically, there is a portal that you will be able to view. It will go right down to the address level. You will have availability information per address location, but you cannot do any analysis through that portal. This license gives you the ability within your organization with your GIS staff to go ahead and actually analyze separately. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. So to put it differently, if you want full latitude, you need the full data set with proper software, with someone who knows how to run the software, and then you can do everything. If you're just going to rely upon the software presented through the tool you set up, there's going to be certain compromises. Thank you.
Davis, did that answer your question?
Yes. I think so. Thank you.
Okay. Great questions. Okay, so we've got about 6 minutes left. We're going to go ahead. I'll give you just another minute for questions, and then we'll do our wrap up. So last call for questions. Carrie, go ahead.
Oh, I wrote it in the chat there. My assumption was alternative technologies could not be considered part of the challenge process, but they could come in later and become eligible for grant funds if they were in a high cost threshold area. But I thought I heard earlier one of the CPUC folks say alternative technology could be part of the challenge process, such as satellite.
So Amy or Phil, just maybe if you can touch a little bit on what we're really focusing on, what the challenge process and what that means versus I think we're also kind of getting a little bit into some grantee selection. So.
Sure, I'll make it, and thanks for the question. I appreciate it. All of the technologies at a location will be listed on the challenge map. You have the ability to put a challenge in, say, for instance, against a licensed fixed wireless location that you doesn't believe is correct. So you can put a challenge through to challenge the availability of that particular service. The portal gives you that ability, but we can certainly put some more detail into the type of challenges that we would recommend and are available in our FAQ document for you to review later.
And Carrie, I would also just encourage you, we've got some slide decks that are posted on the website, and they do go in depth into the types of challenges, the types of technologies, and all of that sort of thing that are available to be challenged during the challenge process and the challenge phase. Okay, well, thank you everyone for all of your questions. Sam, if you could bring up slide 6, I held off on that one because that was kind of talking about some of the additional resources. Perfect. We'll be sharing the slide deck out after this, but I think some of you have seen this before. We have yet to determine and release the dates for the challenge process. Like we said earlier, you could take a look at the intervals on the approved IPv1 that was linked in the chat. We do have a link to sign up for notifications and emails. And for other resources, if you're having any technical issues with signing up or registering for the portal, there is an email that you'll contact Ready. Ready.net is our partner in providing the portal. And then for any general BEAD questions, just please email that bead@cpuc.ca.gov. And we will get back to you, but also we'll be posting your question in the and our answer in FAQ so that we can be open and transparent about everyone's questions and then also the answers, because you're probably not the only one that has that question. For additional information about the BEAD program itself, we have just our main BEAD page, and that's got kind of the whole history of BEAD at the CPUC and federally. We have a specific page for the challenge process. That's where I've asked you to check back next week. And then we also have a frequently asked questions. So if those are some resources for you for just information on the BEAD program in and of itself. From the main page, there's also a link out to events. Events will have upcoming events as well as resources from past events. So the recording and slide decks. So Sam, if you want to skip to somewhere, keep going, keep going. There we go. This is the last of this series of office hours. We do have a couple more webinars that are going to be upcoming. Those will be posted on the events page as well. We're going to do that second round of public participation and permissible challengers. So how does that work? So if you're a permissible challenger, what does it look like going through the portal? We'll be doing a live demo on the portal again. And also, what does that look like when you are engaging with and gathering information for permissible challengers, and also give you an idea of what it looks like for them as well. So if somebody reaches out and says like, you know, hey, am I in the right place that I need to be? We will also be doing a webinar for broadband service providers, specifically talking about the rebuttal phase of the challenge process. So that will be a little bit later on. We'll be announcing that date. And then we will continue to have office hours. Those dates and times have yet to be established, but once they are, we will have those on the events page. And I think that's our last slide. So we're right at the top of the hour. Thank you all for being here today with us. Really appreciate it. We had some really great questions today. So thank you all for your questions. Again, keep an eye out for additional office hours so that as more of these questions come up, once we have more information released and available to you, that we're able to answer those and interact with you. So thank you again, and we hope you have a wonderful day.